Hi, so I want to take a few minutes to talk about something. I was on one of my channels and I saw some comments about just people really struggling. And I want to talk about the struggle because we all struggle. We all get stuck. And I want to talk about that. I think we have to acknowledge what's going on, but we have to work at getting unstuck. Now, sometimes staying stuck is going to be some of that energy may be stuck for a while, and we have to work through getting that unstuck. So, there are ways to get that unstuck, and it's usually we're going to have to do it in a belonging situation, which means we have to do it with a coach or a counselor or someone who has the skills to help us get it unstuck. And it's not usually going to be with like talk therapy. But when we're in that energy, it's almost like we're like with a nail and a hammer, and then we get stuck in this wall. And I also want to give you another visual, because that's what that energy feels like. We're just constantly being bombarded over and over and over again. It's like that hammering of a nail, and it won't stop. This energy, and we feel so gross, and we feel so yucky, and we feel so angry, and we feel so grieving, and we feel so, it's really ugh. But it's also like this: your dog's chasing its tail. Now, at first, it's kind of funny or cute when you're watching your dog chase its tail. I'm going to tell you, my dog chases his tail, and it's absolutely adorable. But if that's all he did all day, he wouldn't eat. He wouldn't be able to play with his other toys like his llama, his dreidel. He wouldn't sit at my feet, sit on my lap. He's a cute little guy too. He'd miss out on all these other things because he's stuck in that energy. Now, again, I think we need to acknowledge this. And many times we need help to get out of it, whether it's through epiphanies, whether it's through like EFT, EMDR, whatever that is. So it's getting out of that energy, but we have to, again, now acknowledge it. So I want to talk about some of the things that I am working through myself. I'm about being vulnerable where, it's about being vulnerable in the right situations or situations that work in being vulnerable. So I was talking to someone today about, I'm not really happy with where we're going in the United States, and it's because of the narratives we haven't dealt with. And what I mean by that is the societal beliefs that we haven't been working through. And I'm going to do everything I can to change that within myself and to work with people who are wanting to change that also. But if people aren't willing to change that, I'm moving on. And I'm going to do my best to work in acknowledgement, acceptance, and being content. Now, again, there's a difference really between happiness and contentment. I'm not going to go into that here. But what I'm going to go into is how things work in my life. So I know this works in my life. I know because I moved a while ago. I was called to move into this place. I know. I lived there for a long time. It was a long time, but I was called to move to this place. I was called to be a part of the change there. I'm not going to go into the fullness of how I was called there. This is because that's a whole other story. And as I was there, I had to really work with my neighbors. And I felt like my neighbors really didn't work with me to the level that I worked with them. I'll be really honest with you on that. And it was always like me gathering them. And I'm not a gatherer. Let's work together. Let's take care of this. Come on. And a lot of times, a lot of things would end up on my plate, and they were not as willing to work with me on situations, and a lot of times would make it more difficult for me. And it came to the point where we were in a situation where it was affecting my health, in a very negative way. In fact, I'm still trying to get over some things regarding my health because of it. And I had to make a decision. And I said, if you can't side, and it wasn't so much siding with us, if you can't stand up in this situation, I have to move. Now, what became interesting is they weren't really willing to stand up. Nobody was. And I couldn't, and it was very hurtful because I did a lot for a lot of people. And I had to work through that energy. But I also had to walk away and say, okay, well, then you guys are going to deal with the consequences here. And there's no one here who's going to band together. And I walked away. And since then, things have gotten a little worse in some ways, and I've still done some things to kind of help them out. I mean, I'm not cold-hearted. A lot of people would have been in my situation, just FYI. And but that's the way life works for me. If I'm going to be helping release this narrative and people don't want to work with me, I'll be sent somewhere else. I know that. And see, this is also how belonging works. This is how being content works. This is how working through the narratives work. If you have a mindset of, I'm willing to do what it takes to be unstuck, I'm willing to acknowledge this. And it isn't about people don't deserve to be in my company. It's about I'm willing to work with people. I want people to work with me. However, that's their choice whether they're going to work with me or not. And if we're not on the same page, it's okay. I wish them the best. But I'm moving forward and I'm finishing the book. If they want to stay on page 58 and I'm on page 200 and I'm almost done, then I'm moving to the next location. I'm moving on to the next book. We've got to start learning it's not about rejection. It's about where the person is at. They're not rejecting you. They may not know how to love you. We're all about ourselves. Bottom line. When we're healthy, we can include others. So this is why we need to get healthy, so we can start caring about not just ourselves, but about others. That's why we need to do things like heart-brain coherence, learning how to listen to the heart of others. So I hope that this was helpful. And on that note, I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.